Every champion has a beginning. For Clarence Love, it started on the football fields of Jackson, Michigan. His talent earned him a chance at the University of Toledo, where dreams became reality. The NFL came calling. Then came Baltimore, where hard work, sacrifice, and brotherhood led to an AFC championship and football's greatest prize, a Super Bowl championship. The journey continued with the Raiders, proving that greatness is built one season at a time. The game may end, but the story never does.
Welcome to Life After the Gridiron. I'm Super Bowl champion Clarence Love. Let's explore life beyond football.
Hey, Jelly, bro.
Welcome.
Hey, man, that was a fine introduction, young man. I appreciate that, man. And it's a pleasure to be here on this podcast with my brothers, man, just kicking it,
Yeah,
it feels good,
coming out, brother.
Yes, sir,
you.
man. And, just here to share my story, my journey after football, the struggles I went through and what's going on in my life now.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Clarence, before the NFL, who was young Clarence Love growing up in Jackson, Michigan?
Yeah. Man, I would say young Clarence Love was a ambitious fella. He had the attitude that, you couldn't really tell him no. If he had his mind set on something, he was going to do it. I see young P Love, man, with the dribble glasses on, trying to learn to dribble that young summer to make the basketball team, young P Love, he had a vision. He had a vision to really, rise above my conditions in Jackson, Michigan. Jackson, Michigan is 20 blocks, and it's some great people in Jackson, but it's pretty hard to make it out of it. It's a prison city, and it
Jackson,
extends
Michigan,
into
a prison city.
the households
Its walls and
of
fences
that
enclose
city,
a
man.
world
And
apart.
it's a great place, and especially back when I was growing up, because as we know, the world changes, But during my young years, Jackson it had its dangers, but it still, has some sense of love there, if that makes sense, because in these younger cities now, we know, we ain't gonna get too socioeconomic, but,
In
the
Jackson,
society is
Michigan,
crazy.
the crime rate is sky high. Violent crime is double the national average.
So, Clarence, I definitely identify with you growing up in Opelika out of Miami. So it was small, but it was Hell City there. So, you hear about Opelika. But anyway, who were some of your biggest influences? And when did you realize football was your calling?
Oh, man, well, the biggest influences in my early life had to be like, my father, my older cousin Derek, who's like a brother, and just my close-knit. We had a close-knit family, man, and that was a blessing to have that. So up into a time, that was pretty much my superheroes. That inspired me to do better. You had other, legends that I call legends, as in my peers that I looked up to, the Marcus Norris, the Michael Scotts, the guys that was really doing that thing, young in Jackson, So those are my inspirations. We were really competitive in Jackson.
Okay.
What was it like when you heard your name on draft day and you realized you were going to have opportunity to achieve your dreams to be in the NFL?
It's gonna sound kind of funky or whatever, but man, I got drafted 116 or 119 or something like that overall in the NFL draft, fourth round to the Philadelphia Eagles. Excuse me. The city of brotherly love, man. It was that was for me coming from like Toledo at that time as a young man going into Philadelphia was a crazy experience. I was disappointed. For answer to your question, I was kind of, because I thought I was going to go earlier. I thought I was going to go in the second round, and I ended up going in the fourth. So, I was kind of like, damn. But it was still, that was, it was still a great feeling. You know, I'm out there hanging out with Darren Sharper. You know, if I should say, but Darren, you know, you that night, man, great guy. I never seen none of the things that, you know, the accusations that's been put up on that man. But we had a great time that night, man. Met up with some movie stars and Malik Yoba. Ate at Justin's, you know, back when Puffy was hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We stayed in the Michelangelo in New York, where, you know, where one of Mike Tyson's suites. So the night was real cool, man. You know, I didn't get. I'm expecting to go on that first day, man, and you know, ended up going, you know, on the second day early in the morning. You know, matter of fact, I got woke up to a draft. Getting draft, you know. But Ray Rose was on the phone at that time,
I
man.
know Ray Rose. I was
You
with Ray
know,
Rose in Denver.
Ray got on the phone cussing my ass out. Motherfucker, you better get ready. You know, yeah, draft your motherfucking ass. You know, you get ready to come on up in here and get busy. You know, and that's just how Ray Rose was. And, you know,
Man, that's a story for you, man. That's incredible. You mentioned some great people. So what do fans never see about life inside the NFL?
let's say that again. How would I?
Okay. What do fans never see about life inside the NFL? You know, we always see you guys on TV, but what about
Well,
behind the scenes?
I think, you know, that the first thing that comes to mind is that, you know, sometimes society takes us as like some type of, you know, as we larger than life sometime, you know. And I seen some of the disrespect and stubbornness. Like, you know, it was one incident where Jerry Rice was signing autographs, and you know, you have a grown man pushing a child out the way to get an
Excuse me,
autograph. You know, the
kids. Out of the
things
way,
get
please.
disillusional. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, can you sign
And
this for me
you know,
real
I
quick?
respected, like, you know, people like Jerry to put people like that in place. Like, get out of my way. But you see some of the extreme things, man. You see the things with the women. You see the things with like your health care and privileges. You know, you get first class status, you know, privileges when you're involved with the team. But you know, when it's over with, you don't get that type of love. You know, and that's the transitional thing that, you know, you have to worry about during these days too, because your life changes once the fucking gridiron is gone. You know, if you ain't a part of that elite select group that get the extra kibbles and bits, you know, I'm a worker. You know, I came in blue collar and you know, remain blue collar. So, you know, it was like different worlds that you gotta, you know, you gotta be able to intermingle within, you know.
One of the your remarkable parts of your story was me when you told me when your spirituality conviction became more important in your football career. You did something I would have never had the galls to do. You went into the office and told Brian Billick you need the Million Man March was bigger than football.
Man, you should have seen the look on that motherfucker's face. You know, not motherfucker, because Brian Billick is a great coach, respected coach. Excuse me for that, but you know, you should have seen the look on that motherfucker face. Hey man, hey man, it was something to see. But you know, he kept it cool, man, and professional. You know, Clarence, we're trying to win a world championship, in which we did do that. We accomplished that year, and this was early on in the season. But I feel like some of that spirituality was bestowed upon me. In itself is kind of right.
Right.
You know, because the energy, you know, carried on to I feel like another team. Well, we went to the Super Bowl right after that, after I sat out a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, just where the things lined up was kind of godly in itself. And I feel like, you know, I was you know, I always have that type of edge of spirituality that you know, it is bigger than football. You know, we got to be thankful for all the things that we could do in each and every day with grace and with humility. So, you know, that's what I felt that I was doing. And, you know,
Yeah.
so
Well, Clarence, I mean, I feel you, but growing up in Miami, and you know how Miami is when it comes to producing them dogs in the NFL or the state of Florida. And
Oh,
at
here you
one
go.
point, you know, that was a dream of to play ball, and I played, but mine ended before it even started. And so when I'm thinking about you, most people spend their whole life trying to reach the NFL. How difficult was it for you to walk away from everything you worked so hard for?
All I got in this world is my balls and my word. I was just listening to
Okay, Tony
Scarface. You know
Montana.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, all I have in my word is my balls and my word. So no, but I just went in with that type of attitude, man. And, I have people that probably didn't think that I worked as hard as them, but God bless. I think I was born for this. I felt like I could go to the NFL when I was a fucking child. It's just, that's how I felt in my head. And I think that's one of the things that was my success. You got to have a determined idea. And a determined idea is something that you wake up to every day, and it's like energy, it's electricity. But you got to know when and where to place it. So that's just how I felt. I felt I was naturally for this.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Did
get you.
anyone
I
try
get
to
you.
convince you to compromise your conviction or give you the strength to stand firm?
Man, all the time, man. You get the undertone. You can feel the undertone of the doubt or whatever you want to call it. Everybody's not hating on you, but at the same time, there could be doubt. They don't know that they're not walking in the shoes you're walking in. They don't see the vision that you see. So yeah, I've got that throughout all my life. And some of the things you got to be able to absorb that and learn how to excel with that because it's a part of life.
Hmm.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to keep going back, but I need to know, were you afraid leaving football meant that your NFL career was over forever? Because you took a bold move, man.
Yeah, man. And I thank God at times. I thank God that Coach Moten called me and convinced me to get back off of that couch, and get my ass back to moving. Look, I wouldn't be able to enjoy the freedoms that I have today if it wasn't for that sport. So I'm thankful and I'm blessed for that. But at that time, in my young mind, the way I was in tune with how I was studying diligently and wanting to discover new things outside of football too. At the same time, I felt like I'm a 5%er. I have roots in 5%er, so I always had a fetish for knowledge. At that time, it was very very strong. I was reading all day, every day, almost. So I was really convicted in what I was doing, and I felt like even if I could share something with my brother and try to spark him and spark something else, it was especially up in my environment that I was in. I felt like I had a purpose.
Hmm.
Yeah, eventually another opportunity came. Looking back, do you believe that was confirmation that staying true to your principle was the right decision?
Absolutely, it sure did. It kind of made me feel like I had a path at that time, and yeah, um, the path wasn't always straight.
You
You
know,
know
it's
what I'm
all
saying?
about
It had
staying
the
true to
zig and the
yourself.
zag in it,
I've learned
but
that the hard way through my
overall,
own
I'm
experiences.
I'm
You
I'm
can't let the
almost where I
negativity get to
envision
you.
myself I want
You
to
just got to
be.
keep pushing forward no
Right
matter
now
what. That's the
I'm
real
feeling
key to
like
success.
I'm beginning to
You know,
be
it's
able to
all about staying
quarterback
true to
something in my
yourself.
life.
I've learned that
I've
the
got a new
hard way.
truck.
Now my
I'm
people
involved in a
focus on the
trucking
goals
company
every
that's
single day.
beginning to
No matter
flourish and
what
do great.
obstacles come your way,
Um,
keep pushing, keep
and I
grinding,
got some
and
other
that's how you
investments
sell
with
the dream
Bashroom
of
Farms
success
where we
that you
sell
got.
coffee, and I feel like those are two major investments that that I think could just as a man, I always wanted to make more money off the field than I did on the field. As a man, to say something, you did something for yourself and that you could go ahead and spread on to your children, and in your community and your friends. I felt like something like that was always the bigger idea than just being a football player. You understand?
Yeah.
Man, you seem like you pretty much asked the question I was going to ask you, because many people got their own definition of what success is. So, how did your second chance change your understanding of what success is? Because you sound like you feel like you're very successful after the game.
Well, I went through my ups and downs. I went through my hells too, most definitely. Sometimes I was in the dark where I didn't even know my way. And shoot, man, all I can say is like, not no mystery, God, but God is real. And energy is real. I feel like what you put out there, it come back to you when you least expect it even.
Yeah. So recently, there's been a lot of growing discussion about concussion research and racial bias. I saw you briefly talk about that on 60 Minutes. Some
Yeah.
former players have been said that black athletes are historically viewed as naturally, not as smart as white players, and we were graded lower on the concussion protocols. What do you feel about that? And
Well, it's a certain stigma, it's a certain prejudice out here that it just exists. You know, we unfortunately have to blunt into that. Where we've been told lies all of our life, and how we have to decipher. Just like we talked about the candy earlier as a joke.
right,
But there's really not a joke. When you look at something, you eat some grape candy, and then you go to your vineyard and you eat some grapes, and they're not the same. That's a lie. And I'm getting scientific for a minute, but the energy in the universe is complete. You can't get no more or no less.
right,
So it's how you transfer your energy to make your heaven or your hell while we living.
right. So you think heaven and hell is a state of consciousness?
Absolutely. There's no one has ever came back from a physical death
Right, facts.
and told us anything. You know what I mean?
Right,
So absolutely. We make our heaven right now. This is a form of heaven that we're sharing with each other.
right.
So, question: how is it important for today's athletes to advocate for themselves when it comes to brain health and proper medical care? Medical care is
Well,
very important.
I mean, the sport we play is just brutal. I mean, period. You certain things you can't really prevent. So when we sign up for it, you got to know that you're getting into something like that, that can harm you for life. So you got to go ahead. The NFL has to go ahead and acknowledge that, especially being the blue collar workers of our field. These players are getting paid astoundingly now, but they should let that payment reach back. It has enough money and funds to reach back to take care of all its players. I don't give a if they played in
It's all
1967.
about staying true
It
to
should be a
yourself.
millionaire
I've
account
learned that the hard
because
way
it's enough
through
money
my
to
own
go around to
experiences.
take care
You
of us
can't
in
let the
that type of
negativity get
world.
to you. You just got to keep pushing forward no
Millions
matter
and
what.
billions of people
That's the
watch
real
us
key
every
to
year.
success.
The
Yes.
It's
whole
all about staying true to yourself. I've
fraternity
learned that
needs to
the
be
hard
under
way.
that
I advise you
shield
to be focused on
forever.
your goals every
Right.
single day,
Period.
I
no matter
I
what
agree,
obstacles
especially
come your
medically.
way. Keep
We
pushing,
shouldn't have to
keep
pay for
grinding,
doctors
and
and
that's how you
medical
sales and
care. That
None of
believe
needs
in
to
that.
come
yourself.
with it.
Let's
Right.
you got it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes too
I
much
agree.
money to not be able to do that. They have to stop being greedy up
Hmm.
at the
I
top.
definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of medical care, your journey eventually led you into holistic healing. What first opened your mind to natural medicines like mushrooms and cannabis? Cannabis.
Well, it was brought to me through it's a society. It's a society in Detroit.
Yeah.
It was headed by a brother named Baba Ahati Kalende E. And I just happened to get acquainted with Baba Ahati Kalende through a friend of mine, who I played with at Toledo. And, it was just, at first, you're thinking it's experimentation. You don't really understand the impact and the benefits of what you're really getting into. It was like gradually I started getting information from the society and then going on my own and reading things about mushrooms. Not only the psychedelics, but also like, the recent explosion of the lion's mane, the turkey
Yeah.
tail, the
Yeah.
reishi, the
Mm,
peptides, and so on and so on. And it's a generational thing of it's a whole lot of holistic and healthful benefits you can get from the funguses.
Hmm.
The mushroom is something to be studied, and it's vast. You could go so many places with it.
Hmm.
yeah, you're right. Because as you speaking on mushrooms, I remember trying the mushroom coffee. And I don't know too much about mushrooms, but the things you're saying in terms of these natural approaches to healing, what role have they played in terms of your life, your recovery, and the misunderstanding about mushroom? Because I definitely had misunderstanding about when I started drinking coffee, and I realized all these different mushrooms and all the benefits to them. So I'm starting to think they treat mushrooms like they treated marijuana a long time ago, and realize all the benefits to it.
Yeah, yeah. At the same time, the marijuana is a little more even dangerous, I would say, than the mushroom these days.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, um, they're spraying all these chemicals and stuff
Chemicals.
on the marijuana, making them grow to, that's you don't do that with mushrooms. Mushrooms, they're a lot safer than people would think they are. You
Okay.
know, speaking on the psychedelics, even, they're a lot safer than a lot of these marijuanas. I mean, I wouldn't advise no one to go out and take 7, 8 grams and go drive. That wouldn't be
Hmm.
wise. But as far as like healthy wise, you're not going. You'll be okay.
Uh, so, quick question. So, when football ended, who was Clarence without the helmet? Who was Clarence without the helmet?
Shit, Clarence without the helmet. uh, shit. I don't know, man. I'm a Gemini. I guess that could be multifaceted of what I was after football.
You definitely a Gemini.
It definitely, it was a learning curve. It was a learning curve and an adjustment from football
Yeah.
Yeah.
to the civilian life.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of grow back into society. You
Hmm.
know, and that's just an adjustment.
I spoke to somebody about that. I think guys who play a certain amount of time in any violent sport, it need to be a debriefing period like they do military soldiers. Because
Absolutely.
adjusting to life after football and just, becoming a second,
And the
almost like
thing,
you
we
feel
don't
like
have
you
those
a second-hand
services.
citizen. You go from everything being gave to you, now you gotta wait in line. You don't have the same perks, and that can be tough for some guys adjusting.
Absolutely.
You're right about that. Yeah, you're really right about that because it's just like people being in the military and they're having all this power, and all this machinery, and then they go back to civilian world, being an aggressive, learning how to kill, fight, and then go back in society when you spend a whole career learning how to kill, fight. You know, yeah. So I wanted to ask you this. So what brought you more fulfillment, playing in the NFL or helping people heal?
You say play or helping people help me? What do you mean? What do
No,
you?
I said what was more fulfilling for you, playing in the NFL or being out and helping people heal? Because you seem like
Help people
you're
heal.
empowering people.
Well, I don't know, man. I think with that question, man, we got really two different dynamics because one was an outlet or a means to get something more. Helping others is always would be greater than the game of football. That's temporary and like for myself. Like glorify. It's a team sport, but at the same time, just a different type of energy and fulfillment. I love playing at times. I love playing and but I love playing. I didn't like watching.
Hmm.
Helping people. I would say I would love. I mean, the being able to help people and put people on. You know, because you create stronger bonds in a sense.
Yeah.
So if your grandchildren and your son, I know your son Nas, can remember one lesson from your life, what would that lesson be?
And the benefit about that is that we got my son here to ask him directly.
But what lesson would you want? Let's hear what lesson he
Oh,
wanted.
a lesson that I would want him to get from me.
Yes.
Oh man, stay true to yourself, man. If you have a determined idea, follow through and don't let nobody deter you from that. Nas, if it was something that you would want to learn from your dad, what will it be?
Put him on the screen.
Get on the screen. Come on the screen. Get on the podcast. This is my son, Nasir Love. You know, if it was something that you would want to learn from your dad, anything, what would it be? Tell the world.
Trying to think of the word. No, it is. To be as wise as you are.
And
Okay.
you think your pops is wise? I think your pops is wise too. Well, thank you, son.
I appreciate that, Nas.
Appreciate you.
Man, that's
So
man.
that's fun.
Man, you seem to have this preconceived notion to know what I'm going to ask because I want to ask you, how do you define success today? But just being a great father and to hear a child say, "I want to be as wise as my father," that did it for me, man. But how do you define success?
Like I said, being able to have, pass something on, come up, basically, any running something for yourself, that can empower others, to help, like my next thing in life, what I really want to do is, first of all, have solid friends, investments where money is coming in, where it's not really, and then having a collective cause to get like some acres. I'm talking about some good acres, 100 or more if we can, and like learn how to coexist. We don't, have your acres over here, have your acres over here, have it well written out with what do you call it? The wills and the trusts and all that
Trust.
stuff and
Yeah.
make everything solid and bond to because I feel like we need to go back to how like our foreparents, like our great grandparents did it. They had land and they coexisted on it. You might have Uncle Johnny over here, about 5 acres over here. He raising goats, or he got you got Auntie over here, got some chickens. I feel like we need to start going back to that as a people. Because I feel like that's better than just, that's more solid than just being athletes. You got to have something that, athletes is being great. That's great. But I'm really thinking that we should be on the platform of where the owners is at. The owners are playing chess with us. You know, I feel like even for the security of our babies, we should have land. If they can't find no more skills in life, they should have a place to go. They can help out on the farm and still feel secure and feel like a man or a woman with responsibilities. We need that for ourselves because we too much in survival mode overall. And how many athletes, movie stars or whatever it is, we talking about. I'm an athlete, so we're gonna speak on athletes. We should be building something like that for our families. If anything, I don't know if they are. Maybe they are, but I don't see it.
And that culture, because I've traveled a lot. In other cultures in Africa, Southeast Asia, they still live in villages. And they
Yeah,
and they
man.
and they and they look at the kids and they see the kid that's the leader, and that kid end up being they pick the priest when he's about 10. And he's gonna be the future to gonna replace the priest, and they got people for every position, and all the people who don't want to work, they gotta work the rice fields. And so they everybody eats, and it's like it's no home. I was in Bali. There's no homelessness.
No
There's no
homelessness.
homelessness because everybody belongs to a village. And the youngest child always, and the youngest is no, and there's no old folks home either. So the youngest child have to take care of the elderly.
Okay.
That's their
Yeah,
job.
man. We should have
And
stuff
so
in
it's
place
set
like
up
that for our
like,
families.
and it works because I've seen it. It's very in Bali. I've seen it in Bali, and I've seen it in parts of Africa. And it's less stressful. I think we should get back to that. I think it'll be less
Yes.
cost efficient, and get back to what's really
All types of
what's
stuff
really
where we could be
important, which is
building.
family. You know.
Hmm.
So we got this next section of the show. We call it the 2-minute drill. We're gonna ask you 10 questions. I want you to say the first thing pop in your mind.
I dig it, dig it.
Okay. I'm gonna start it off and Swab gonna back me up. Okay, favorite NFL memory.
Damn, man. All types of shit pop. Walter Payton.
Oh yeah, that's my same. I got
Funniest
that same.
teammate.
That's my same answer. That's funny. Yeah.
Funniest teammate.
Shit, Jelly.
Here we go. Hardest hitter you ever faced.
Damn. Dylan McCullough.
Dylan McCullough. Okay.
Your favorite stadium.
Damn. Glass Bowl.
Does sex after the game affect your play? The sex before the game affect your play?
Hell no. Make me play better.
One player that everyone should know was better than everybody realized.
Ronald Curry. I don't know why. This shit just popped up. I don't know. You said first thing. What the fuck?
Yeah. Biggest lesson football taught you.
Never give up. Will to
And
win.
your favorite book?
Theology of time.
One habit you practice every day.
I smoke weed.
That is, I mean, it's true. I mean, I can't be mad at you.
Yeah. If
You
you could
keep it
leave
real.
everyone listening with one sentence, what would that be?
You did? Yes. Accept your own and be yourself.
Man, yeah.
What you say to
Yeah, that's
him?
real. I like
Yes,
that.
yes.
I'm gonna answer that the same. I'm gonna have that same answer. That would be my answer,
Favorite
actually.
stream of all time, and you motivate
Word up.
life. I hope you text me back and I'll engage.
That's real dope.
Hey man, so Clint, thank you for sharing your
You
story,
added
brother,
me
with
back,
us,
bro.
man. Your life reminds us that champions fade, careers end, but character, faith, and purpose last forever.
Yeah,
For sure,
Thank you for
though.
showing us
man,
healing
yeah.
isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual.
I appreciate
Listen,
this,
everyone.
fellas.
Yeah.
Before we go, we asked our guest, what do you do every day? He looked us dead in the eye and said, I smoke weed. So we're going to end this episode on a high note. Whether you're high on life, high on purpose, or just high, keep chasing your healing and your truth. This is life after the gridiron, where the helmets come off, the masks come off, and the real conversations begin. If this episode made you laugh, made you think, or change your perspective, do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Peace.
Yeah, man, yeah. Yeah, man, yeah. Yeah. Man, yeah.